Welcome, and thanks for joining us at Wit, Wisdom, and Wrinkles, Candid Chats on Aging. Each week, we bring you a short chat on the things we all deal with as we age. Sometimes we laugh, sometimes not. Occasionally, we'll also bring you a longer chat on the question of retirement in general. Hope to see you here often. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Wit, Wisdom, and Wrinkles. Today is going to be a little bit different. Instead of me interviewing my guest, Kelly Hayes Raitt, she's going to be interviewing me. We had talked about this offline, and I agreed to it. And so we're going to be talking about my journey through breast cancer. Kelly is, as well as a dear friend, she is an author, a writing coach, and a world traveler.
And a big fan of Pauline Field.
So I'm going to turn it over to you, Kelly.
Thank you, Pauline. Thank you for wanting to do this. So let me put my best Larry King hat on here and see what we can do. One of the things that really struck me when you first told me about your cancer diagnosis was how upbeat and positive you were about it. Usually when people hear the word cancer, it comes with this real heaviness and it feels like it's a huge death sentence. I'm curious, why do you think that is, that cancer has that perception? And how were you not feeding into that yourself?
Yeah, you'd think I would feed into that because it is definitely all around. Because the big C, they call it, and cancer it can be fatal within a short period of time, some cancers. With breast cancer, however, there is such a huge survival rate.
Over 90%.
Yes.
Over 90%. Yeah, it's huge. Yeah.
Exactly. If it's caught early. And that's really, I'm sure the other 10% is because people ignored all the signs and didn't have their mammograms and so on. To me, it was obviously a shock, but it was like, okay, this is a problem. Let's deal with it and get on with life. And when I did the research to see that, yeah, there's so much treatment and it was caught early enough that this could be handled. It could be, okay, problem solved. And that's, I think, one of the main reasons why I was so upbeat. And apart from the fact that that's who I am. I am upbeat. I always see the glass not only half full, but actually totally full, because even if there's only half liquid, there's half air, so it's full of something.
I love that. I remember that you were doing a lot of research. What were some of the things that you found when you were researching, besides the good survival rate?
I found that and by the way, I did research both online and in talking to other people who have been through it. And I found that medical technology has come so far that it is merely just an annoying thing that you get through, and that there are several options depending on exactly the cancer you have and exactly the stage it's at and so on. And that one of the things I absolutely wanted to avoid was chemo, which I did. And I didn't have to have radiation either. And I researched when those are necessary and when they're not, and what the alternatives are, and the questions that I needed to ask the surgeon, the oncologist, everybody along the way.
Were there some things that you learned about yourself during this whole time that surprised you, positive or negative?
I learned that I hadn't liked to ask for help. I consider myself very independent and really always have been. I can't do this on my own. And I did reach out and ask for help. I saw that I really can look at where people are coming from, because almost without exception, people were like, when you're so upbeat about this, how come you're so upbeat? And
I was,
yeah. And I looked, particularly, there were people who looked very concerned and worried. And I just looked at, oh, they have a different perception than I do. And part of it because of the research I had done. And I looked at, but I shouldn't take for granted how upbeat I am and how positive I am, because a lot of people aren't. So I feel like I've learned that about myself, and I'm very happy about it.
that's wonderful. I want to go back to something you said just a few minutes ago about how the cancer death rate has declined precipitously really over the last 30 years.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons. There's better medical technology. We have better early detection. People are more aware about getting checked if there's a lump or something going on. Smoking rates have declined. Our air pollution, our air quality is better.
Yeah.
We have vaccines now, right? The HPV vaccine has really made a huge difference. So I think there's a lot of reasons that cancer diagnoses are not the death sentence they once felt they were just a few generations ago. And yet there really is still this heaviness around cancer that just doesn't seem to exist around other diseases. And I'm just curious why you think that is.
I think it's because for so long, cancer, first of all, was thought of as cancer, one thing, cancer, rather than the many diseases that it encompasses. And it almost always was fatal. And even though it's been many years since many cancers are no longer fatal, but still people are used to thinking about, oh, cancer. Whatever else you want to do, you don't want to get cancer and you don't want to have to deal with it. It's awful and you're going to die. So that hasn't gone away yet. So I think that's why people are so heavy with it.
It's so reflective in our language, too. We talk about battling cancer, and she's so courageous with the way she's fighting cancer. People don't get healed. They don't get better. They're in remission. So the language around it tends to be almost warlike and, dare I say, a little bit masculine. Did you find that? How do you feel about that?
I couldn't agree more. And I find it off-putting because I'm a peace person anyway. And so the whole, as you said, masculine way of speaking about it, because I think when cancer was so bad, the medical profession was still very heavily weighted to men that were the doctors. It hasn't evolved to a softer, gentler way of speaking about it, where it's about healing and recovery rather than battling and fighting. And it's time we talked about healing and recovery. As well as doing my research about what it means, what are the survival rates, what kind of treatments there are. Somebody referred me to a book on juicing as a way to fight cancer.
Can you talk a little bit more about juicing and what it is and what you did?
Sure. There's few people who had different kinds of cancer. It wasn't breast cancer. They had tumors, and one person did all this juicing, and then somebody else said, oh, let me try it. And they both had their cancers, their tumors shrink and eventually go away. And what they did and what I did for a while was you get a juicer, not a blender, not a Cuisinart, but a juicer. And for about 6 or 8 weeks, I bought 5 pounds of carrots every day, cleaned them and juiced them and drank the juice.
You drank 5 pounds of carrots every day?
Every day.
Okay. It's just begs this. No wonder your hair is so red. Sorry.
And I have no way of knowing whether it did any good because my type of cancer is different from these people. Plus, it was a very small sample. It's not that I would recommend it to anybody. The book that I read of these people, what was researched a little, but not highly. But I do think that Western medicine, although they're starting to look at the nutritional side of things for how to keep our bodies healthy, they're not up to speed yet. I did that for a while. And then I went on a cancer prevention medication after surgery that the side effects just made it impossible for me to continue with them. So I now am back to juicing, except rather than doing it daily, I now do it once a week.
So 5 pounds of carrots once a week.
That's right.
All right. Yeah. Some people would say an apple a day, but you're like 5 pounds of carrots a week.
Okay. And also energy healing. I know somebody who helped me when I had COVID and with amazing results. And so I asked her if she would help me with this. And again, the results were amazing, but I started to heal very quickly.
And how do you know you started to heal?
The way I felt, just because I did have surgery, and with surgery, it's anesthesia, and anesthesia is poison to your system. And so I was sluggish.
Well,
and the healing.
I'm a big proponent of energy healing because that's what we are. Because we're all energy. It's all atoms and electrons just doing their thing. And I've been very successful recipient of energy healing when it comes to emotional issues, mental fogginess, and so forth. I think it can be good. Also, my attitude about it is that it doesn't hurt, right? And it doesn't stop any Western medicine from working. It doesn't, there's no counter indication there. So I think throwing as much as you can at it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
When you and I first talked about doing this podcast, you had some very kind of specific ideas about why you wanted to talk about cancer, this taboo topic, and what you wanted people to get out of it. What do you want our listeners to take away from this conversation today?
Yeah, I think because it is still a taboo topic, there is still stigma around it. And there have been such great strides that have been made in the treatment and healing of cancer. I wanted to really get the word out that there are lots of people. I'm just one person, but there's lots of people who have the diagnosis, done whatever treatment is necessary, and are living full, long lives. And it's time that we let it go, let the stigma of cancer go. Just that, you have to be responsible and take care of it. And the other thing is because, particularly for women, we're good at nurturing others, but we forget about ourselves. And taking care of ourselves, first of all, in making sure that, particularly with breast cancer, that we get our annual mammograms and preferably do our own checking in between, but that also that we look at people around us want to help us. They really want to help. What can I do? What can I do? And letting people in, letting people help, even if it feels wrong, don't let that get in the way because people want to help. And when they do, they feel good and you feel good.
I think you're helping a lot of people today just by talking about this and with the comments and the advice that you have. So I really want to thank you for sharing all that and for being willing to have this conversation. Thanks so much, Pauline.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. This has been great. I really appreciate it. This again is Kelly Hayes Raitt, author, writing coach, and world traveler. And hope to see all of you, all of our listeners again soon. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us today on this edition of Wit, Wisdom, and Wrinkles. Hope to see you again soon for another of our podcasts, Candid Chats on Again.